Well, hello and welcome to episode 137 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here as always with Michaela. And Michaela, sometimes you have a play that's based on a play. Sometimes you have a movie that's based on a play that's based on a play. And that's what we're talking about today, right? This is like the inception of Broadway stuff right here. And we're talking about one of your favorites. So hopefully you're excited. Everyone out there, buckle up. It's hard to say. Michaela might go off the rails. This movie might go off the rails. I don't know. Noise is off, Michaela.
Noise is off. So I want to talk. I've been dreaming about talking about this film probably, I don't know, since I was 4. This is the very first play I ever saw. My mom, if you're listening, this is for you. The very first play I ever saw, my mom took me to a play. I don't know why she took me to this play. I was less than 6 years old. I was probably 4 or 5. And I sat in the audience, and all I remember is people screaming. There were sardines everywhere, and a woman was in her underwear pretty much the entire play. And I could not figure it out. And I was like, everyone was laughing around me. Laughing till they were peeing laughing. And I could not understand why, because I was so young. And then many years later, when I was about, I don't know, when this movie came out, I saw it and was like, wow, I know this. I've seen this. And so I had to call my mom, and she's like, absolutely. I saw this on its way to Broadway for sure. So this is a little gem. It is not well known. Everybody who's listening to this podcast, this episode, is probably doing it as a personal favor to me. If you've not seen it, you should definitely go see it. It is something that is near and dear to my heart. And I think it is one of the funniest movies that has ever been made. And that's just how I'm going to feel about it, Brian.
All right, that is an early hot take coming out of the gate. So we're definitely going to need a cocktail to deal with all of that. So why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. We'll grab some sardines. Maybe we'll leave the sardines on the table. Maybe we'll take them with us. I don't know, but we're going to grab those, grab some gin, and we'll be right back to whip up this week's cocktail.
So this week's cocktail comes from Edible Ottowa. And it's profiling the mixologist Andrew McDowell. Andrew, you're a genius, and I don't know you, but I love you. Thanks for making a cocktail for my favorite movie. So I have to talk to you, Brian, about this, because
Yes.
we were trying to figure out one of the biggest problems with doing this is, number one, no one's seen this film. So no one's going to listen to this episode. And number two, how do you make a cocktail for this film? Because there are sardines that are passed through and dropped on people's heads and dropped on the floor and slipped on.
That's true. Now, in fairness, the entire second act of the film revolves around a gag with a bottle of J&B Scotch. So I don't know. I didn't make a cocktail with J&B Scotch, Michaela, but that's okay. There are a lot of sardines in this film, so that's important too.
Yeah, that's true. But this is inspired. I mean, we could have maybe done some sardine washed bourbon instead of gin, but I know that you like gin. So this I felt was like a super inspired. It's called the Gin Tin, but it's with sardine washed gin, which sounds gross. We're going to talk about if it actually is gross in the next 35 seconds.
That's right. Absolutely. It does sound gross. Can confirm, but actually the article is really kind of neat. If you read it, we'll post a link to it down in the show comments and on the website and stuff like that. But it was kind of like this bartender challenge, which seemed just kind of like this fun thing that bartenders around Ottawa were doing, just challenging each other to giving them an ingredient and letting them have at it. And this particular mixologist, Andrew McDowell, was challenged to get some sardines into a cocktail, and this is what he came up with. So first things first is you're going to have to infuse your gin, which you did, Michaela, but it's really pretty simple, right? You take like a cup of your gin. You don't actually take the actual sardine. Get that out of your head. That's disgusting. But you do take a little bit of the oil from the sardine tin, put that in there. And what you're doing is you're basically like fat washing this gin. We've done it before with popcorn. For Empire of Light, I think we did a butter wash bourbon might have been for Blade Runner, I think maybe something like that. I can't remember for sure, but it's a pretty familiar technique, but we obviously had never used the sardine oil. So you put that in there, you give it a shake, you put it in the freezer, and basically that gives it kind of time to infuse and to solidify that oil so you can strain it back out. So it just gives it a little bit of this oily essence.
Right. And it's much more about the salinity of the sardine. It's not fishy. It's kind of briny, which makes sense with gin, because if you're going to do a gin martini and you're going to make it dirty, you're just going to add some olive brine into it, right? Which is
Mhm.
a piece of this as well. So it sounds gross. Trust me, just give it a shot. I wouldn't recommend doing a whole bottle of this, because if you don't like it, then you would have wasted a bottle of gin. Do a cup and like an ounce of the sardine oil. Follow the instructions that Brian just said, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
And in the article, it says that at this particular bar that he was working at, they used Gin Mar, which is this, very salinity forward. It's like a Mediterranean gin. It comes from Spain. It's very, very famous around the world. It's very expensive. It comes in a very beautiful bottle. We didn't think it was worth spending the money and spending the time tracking a bottle of that down. So we used the Hendrick's Neptunia, which is Hendrick's, one of their like summer flavor riffs on a Mediterranean gin, which also has kind of this salinity to it, and we thought that was going to be a pretty good substitution there for the gin Mars. That's what we used. Feel free to use any gin that you'd like if you feel up to trying this for yourself.
Absolutely. So you're going to take an ounce and a half of this gin that's been washed with the sardine oil. Okay. You're going to add that into a shaker tin with some ice, to half an ounce of some Fino sherry. Now, the specific recipe calls for Tio Pepe. We couldn't find that in our area of the United States. Fino sherry just is the driest sherry that you can get. Fun fact, I learned all about sherry trying to track this down. So you're just going to use half an ounce of that. So like a capful, not too much. Then you're going to add a quarter of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. It's real important to use fresh lemons and fresh citrus in all of the cocktails that we talk about. I am now a proponent of all things but fresh, but this is really important because you definitely want that lemon to cut the kind of salinity, right? And then you're going to add just a teaspoon or a bar spoon of olive brine. Okay, you're going to put that in, shake it up real nice so it's super, 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 super cold. And then you're going to strain that into a glass. And then you're going to add some Fever Tree tonic to the top of it.
That's right. Yeah, you're basically just building a gin and tonic kind of at that point, right there with your the gin, the sherry, and the tonic. So yeah, I got this put together, and kind of initial impressions was I was a big fan of this. Obviously, you think the sardine washed gin is going to, I don't know, you think about it and you're like, that sounds gross. I don't like this. But yeah, like we said, it's not really like imparting any like flavor of the sardine or like this weird fishiness. It's really just kind of a little bit of salinity, which you're also getting from the olive brine. You're also getting from the particular gin that we used or that they used. But really that oil washing of it gives it kind of this more like velvety mouthfeel that you don't get in just a standard gin and tonic, which I thought was really, really kind of neat. And I liked that a lot. I liked the addition of the olive brine. We're big fans of the dirty martini here at Drink the Movies. So this was kind of like a dirty gin and tonic, which was pretty nice. The sherry gave it a really nice kind of body and a little bit of extra oomph that you don't get just with your regular straight gin and tonic. It gave it a little bit more of a backbone there, and this was pretty good. Now I will say, if you didn't want to mess around with doing the washing the gin with the sardine oil, you could probably get in the same ballpark if you just put a drop or two of olive oil into your shaker tin and shook that up. A lot of cocktails now you're seeing an addition of olive oil by a drop or two, just to kind of change the way that the mouthfeel works, the way that it coats your tongue, stuff like that. So you could probably do that and get a close approximation if you don't want to mess around with the sardines. Michaela's lucky or unlucky enough, depending on how you look at it, to have a spouse who is a big fan of eating those sardines after we made this cocktail. You might not be a fan of that, so maybe you don't want to even bother with that. So try the olive oil trick and let us know what you think. But I was a fan. Michaela, what did you think about this one?
I really liked it. I am a big fan of a dirty martini, as you know. This is perfect. If you like a slightly dirty martini, this is perfect for you. Because again, the only thing that I noticed, it was a little bit more salinic, but it's the mouth feel that really gets you with the fat washing. It's just kind of, like you said, it's super smooth, and the way that it kind of coats your tongue, it's not as clean a finish. It stays with you a little bit longer, which I like, because I like the taste of gin and I like the taste of martini. So
Mhm.
the effervescence with the tonic is kind of neat too, because on one hand you have this like unctuous feeling in your mouth, but then you've got the bubbles uh, of the tonic. I do not recommend. Someone has already asked me if I recommend a flavored tonic with this. I do not. I think just a fever tree tonic is the way to go. I really like, if you were going to pick one, they have like an Indian tonic, and then they have a
Mhm.
Mediterranean. I'd probably go with the Mediterranean one, but I would not do like any of
Yeah.
the
There's
fun like
like
elderflower or the
elderflower,
or
cucumber, or
citrusy. Don't do
right.
any of that. It will
Yep.
it'll throw this whole thing off. Even though we add some lemon juice in there, I would not add like a lemon flavored. So you've been warned. Do what you want with that information. But I thought this was really inspired because, again, it's something very different. We could have totally made a cocktail or found a cocktail that would have worked with J&B. But really, the challenge is, how in the world would we make a good cocktail? Something that tastes good, that's also very cool to the eye and pleasing, with sardines. And so, I mean, again, hats off to Andrew McDowell, because he did it and it's amazing. And I'm so glad I'm here for it. I'm here all day.
But yeah, hats off to Andrew McDowell. This one was delicious. So give this a try, or let us know what you think about it, or let us know if you think that we are insane people for making a sardine cocktail, because that is highly possible too. But for now, Michaela, we've got you mix this up, so we have enough for one more of these gin and tonics. So let's go grab that. We'll see if we can figure out what we're supposed to do with the sardine gin as we go through this film. Just like Carol Burnett's having to do. So let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film. Noises off.
Spoiler warning for Noises Off. Who am I kidding? No one's seen this film but you and me in the last 5 years, Brian. But look, listen, honestly, people of all, if you've not seen this film, don't listen to this, because we're going to mess it up and you're going to think it's not a great movie. You already probably think that we don't know what we're doing with the cocktail. So just press pause, go watch the movie. It's not streaming anywhere. You're going to have to buy it. And if you hate it, I'll pay for it. Okay. Send me a
Wow.
message. I guarantee you're going to at least laugh one time, at least one time. And then you can make yourself a, sardine oil wash gin tin. You will like that as well. And then you can come back and we can chat about all the things Noises Off.
That's right. Those are some bold statements to be made for sure. Absolutely. So this was released in 1992, directed by Peter Bogdanovich, and it stars a bunch of people. Michaela, Michael Caine is our showrunner, Lloyd Fellowes, and it stars a whole slew of other people: Carol Burnett, Denholm Elliott, John Ritter, Christopher Reeve, Nicolette Sheridan, Marilu Henner, Julie Haggerty, and Mark Lynn Baker are all in this thing. They are putting on a play to end all plays on its way to Broadway, as these things tend to work. And you bring up a very good point. No one saw this, Michaela. This had a budget of $12 million. It made $2 million. I think opening weekend, I think it was like 30th, which is not great, but it is based on a play. The play is very well beloved for sure. People were like, I don't know if that's going to adapt to the big screen that well. Even Michael Frayn, who wrote the original play, kind of had the same thoughts, but he was there to oversee it and thought that they did a pretty good job. Wasn't a fan of the ending, but we're going to get to that when we get to that. So, Michaela, I spent $3.49 on this film, so I'm ticking away. I'm chopping away back at that $12 million budget. I am paying it back, and I thought that it was kind of interesting. This was produced by Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy, who produced the film we talked about last week and produced the film we talked about the week before. Stars Denholm Elliott, who you might know. You definitely don't know him as Selsden Mowbray from this film, but you probably know him as Marcus Brody from Indiana Jones, which we've talked about here the last couple of weeks too. So I thought that was fun. Like, it's like this expanded universe. So drink the movies we've got coming with Noises Off.
That's right. So it's a star-studded cast. I mean, honestly, it's amazing how many talented people were put together, and it's very much like a play because there's only about 10 characters. And when we see a movie that came from a play, usually we can tell that something seems a little off. Now, obviously, we could tell that this is a play because of the subject matter. But one of the things that I think sets this so far apart from some of the other movies that were plays before is that this, the camera work actually follows the actors. And it's so interesting to me because in an interview that Michael Frayn did, he said, I was totally for making a movie with this, but I had no idea how they could really do it. Because we have the front of the house and then we have the back of the house, and there's all these things that happen in the back on the backstage of a play that we don't see as the audience. And how do we show that? Well, I don't know how they showed it in a play, because I would have thought that would have been more difficult than showing it in a movie where you can follow people around and have certain scenes and have your point of view shift, versus in a play, your point of view stays the same. And so I thought this was super brilliantly done in that way, to show those pieces in a way that if you watch the play, which I totally recommend everybody doing, it's hilarious. You don't get the same look and feel. It's a little bit different just because of the fact that you're sitting in an audience and you're stagnant where you are, versus in the movie, you get to go all these places.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And this story, it's basically a telling of this play. It's called Nothing On, which is kind of advertised as this like sexy like romp of a farce play. Now, if you don't know what a farce is, it's basically a type of play or story. It's a comedy where basically just there's a ton of just crazy, exuberant, exaggerated things happening. It is it's a very classic style of play, going, all the way back as far as plays go. It's harder to pull off on a film. I think it works better in plays because you can see all of the action, because you're just seeing the entire width of the play. So how is that going to translate to the big screen, to the small screen, I guess, watching it on your TV or your movie theater. And that's really hard to capture, but they did a good job of that, I think. And you mentioned, Michaela, how do you see the stuff that's going on, on the stage that we're seeing as the audience, and the stuff that we're seeing backstage? How do we see all that stuff at the same time? And the way that they do it here, I've not ever seen the play, but I think it's probably the way they do it in the play as well, is you show your dress rehearsal in Des Moines, Iowa, you show your backstage in Miami, and you show kind of the final exaggerated, exuberant product in Cleveland. Go Cleveland, Cleveland rocks. So let's start out in Des Moines. We are there. We are with Michael Caine's character, Lloyd Fellowes. He is the director, the brains behind this play that we've got going on. What's it called? Nothing On.
Nothing
and
On.
We're introduced to the cast. So we've got Carol Burnett is coming out. She's playing Dottie Otley, Mrs. Clackett, her character there. She's coming out carrying a plate of sardines, answering the phone. There is a lot of talking going on, but we're getting this thing started. So let's talk about Des Moines and kind of this dress rehearsal section.
Right. Well, first of all, it's a dress rehearsal because
it's 1 a.m. the night before.
It's 1 a.m. the night that they're opening. That seems pretty par for the course. I don't know how many play productions you've been in, but most of the ones that I've been in are a complete disaster. And that's one of the things that it makes this so great, is that they missed the tech rehearsal. So they're getting used to the set for the first time. They don't know where anything is. They don't know what's going on. You have Carol Burnett as this person who's she's like a legend, and she's got money in the show, and this is like her last big hurrah before she retires. You've got her friend, Selsden, who's played by the amazing Denholm Elliott. He is hilarious as this burglar character. He's also got like a severe drinking problem. Everybody's trying to keep him away from everything. And he's got, sometimes he can hear and sometimes he can't. It's great physical, farce comedy. John Ritter is he's Gary Lejeune. He plays this guy who is coming to look at this house. And have it rented out. And all of this is supposed to take place in England, which is really funny because you got all these American actors who then have to, except for Tim Howell, and then have to turn on these English accents and try and, carry that off while they get really mad or really hurt or fall downstairs or throw sardines everywhere. One of my favorite characters is Mary Lou Henner. She plays this girl named Valinda. She is so happy, and she reminds me of there's always a mother hen kind of character in a theater company that wants everyone to get along and wants everyone to like each other. And she calls everyone dear and honey and precious and love. And it's while they're trying to put together this dress rehearsal, she's like trying to make everybody feel good and make everybody feel like they're part of something, and she's always the one who's talking Lloyd Fellowes down, who's the director, who's absolutely losing his mind. He has about 6 volumes trying to get this dress rehearsal just over the first act. I don't know how many acts are there in Nothing On. We never find out. We never actually get there, but we go through the first act, I don't know, 6 times. And he's just like, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. It's just doors and sardines. We'll get the sardines on and get the sardines off. It's life. It's going to be fine. And yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's very crazy. So you have Carol Burnett there. You have Denholm Elliott. He's playing this burglar. He keeps kind of coming in. I really like he's like half drunk. He keeps coming in. They have to like reassure him like every time with what he's doing. And they're like, you come back. You're not on for 20 more pages. Go take a nap. You're not on for 10 more pages. Go take a nap. You're not on for 5 more pages. Oh, you're on now. Where are you? And he comes in, like breaks the window and opens the window. That's pretty great. You have John Ritter's character is there with his lady friend, Vicky, played by Nicolette Sheridan. They're there for some sort of like romantic tryst kind of a thing at this house that he's looking at, which is only to be broken up because they're not expecting Mrs. Crockett to be there, and they're not expecting the next guests to be coming in, who are played by Mary Lou Henner, as you'd mentioned, and Christopher Reeve, who's playing, I guess, is kind of the owner of this house, I think.
Yes.
But they're supposed to be in Spain. It's this whole thing. So all of these people are all in the house. None of them are supposed to be in the house, and they're all trying to hide the fact that they're in the house from each other. So you get a lot of kind of this comedic bit where they're going in and out of doors, trying to get into trying to go in the wrong door where people are in, and leaving stuff behind, and it's just a very wacky kind of complicated thing to be seeing. It's very complicated to be showing on TV. I mean, and that's why I said like this stuff kind of works better as a play because you can see all of these components going on at once. Whereas a movie, you're having to, follow around Christopher Reeve because he's Superman, and you have to, make sure that you're highlighting what he's doing in the scene. He's probably the highlights of this first section for me. Christopher Reeve is really fun because he's very, I don't know, he's very committed to the craft of acting, whereas Michael Caine is like, just read what it says. I don't care. Do you want me? I'll make up this backstory real quick for you if you want to have that. But he's Superman. He's very kind of indecisive on some of these things. He's afraid of blood because he gets a nosebleed, which is funny because again, he's Superman. And it's just all this wackiness goes on, which leaves Nicolette Sheridan in her underwear for most of the film going on for the rest of the time.
And Nicolette Sheridan's character, Brooke, she's kind of the token, kind of myopic beauty. She's not very smart. She doesn't listen a lot. She loses a contact, I don't know, 6 times, and then everybody has to stop production. And of course, Michael Caine's character is like, we're not going to do this in the middle of the play, are we? Like, what happens if she does? And they're like, she'll just keep going. And she's like, well, I can't see. And there's a couple times where she can't see, and she like falls over the couch because she doesn't see it, even though it's right in front of her. And of course, we have a stagehand played by the amazing Mark Lynn Baker. His name's Tim. And they're like, where's Tim? There's Tim. God says, Tim, go be fruitful and multiply and fix the doors. And because this is, again, their dress rehearsal, but it's kind of like the technical rehearsal too, because nothing is working, because the set was put up wrong. Now, no one realized that the set was put up wrong because everybody in this play is having affairs with everybody else in this play. So like Lloyd Fellowes, who's the director, is having an affair with Poppy, who's the stage manager, but he's also having a sneaky little affair with Nicolette Sheridan, Brooke Ashton, right? And that's a love triangle that finds itself in bed with a giant cactus in the butt a couple of times for Michael Caine, deservedly so.
That's right. Yeah. The Michael Caine, Julie Haggerty, Nicolette Sheridan love triangle is not one that I ever knew that I needed, but I did need Carol Burnett and John Ritter being in a love triangle that's not even a love triangle with Marilu Henner. That one was pretty funny, I thought. Meanwhile, you have John Ritter, who's just kind of going through the motions and keeps getting entangled in all of these out of nowhere, which is really fun. And then you have Denholm Elliott, who just keeps coming in half asleep, half drunk all the time. This first part of the film is absolutely crazy. One of the things that I really liked about this first section is that you'll keep getting Lloyd Fellowes, the director, is going to keep calling cut, and as all of this craziness ensues, and they're trying to figure out the placement for all of these things. And every time it shows him, he's in a different part of the theater. I thought that was really funny, and I thought that was pretty great. But they finally make it to the end of Act 1 on this. Say, can you just read the last line? We're 2 lines away from ending Act 1. We want to go get some coffee. We want to take a nap because it's 1 a.m. The show opens tomorrow. Can you please read it? They read the line. That is it. And then we're on our way. We should say before we get to Des Moines, right? It starts on opening night on Broadway. It's a little bit of a spoiler that's where the show is going to get to immediately. And you see Lloyd Fellowes trying to sneak out of the theater because he doesn't want to be there when it bombs. So that's pretty fun too. So Des Moines, I guess, goes off without much of a hitch. Apparently, and now it is on its national tour, right? So you get a little montage of all of the places that they're going, exotic destinations like Wisconsin and Indiana and stuff like that. But eventually, they make their way to Miami, and this is the best part of the film, no doubt, hands down. It's because we're seeing now the same exact thing that you just saw in Des Moines, except now we're seeing it from backstage.
That's right. And there's so many bits. I mean, I could quote this whole film because I've watched it about 1 billion times, but there's so many bits that are so great. So Julie Haggerty, I love her so much. She and Martlyn Baker, they're the stagehand and the stage manager, right? And they're trying to keep this company together because now Michael Caine, he's not supposed to be there. He's supposed to be in New York rehearsing Hamlet because I guess that's what directors do. They don't follow the play. They go and continue on with their lives. But apparently his little, run-in with Nicolette Sheridan's character, Brooks called him and said, I'm unhappy. And he's like, oh my gosh, I got to stop this because I don't have time to rehearse another Brooke. I need to, come and show up and give her some whiskey and some flowers and hang out with her in a room for 2 hours. And I guess she thinks that's going to make everything okay. Probably not the smartest guy, Lloyd. But he shows up and he's like, I'm not here. I'm just going to sit in the audience and I'm just going to watch. Well, what happens is that Carol Burnett's character and John Ritter's character, they get in this big fight, like a lover's quarrel, like a couple of days before. John Ritter and Christopher Reeves don't like each other. John Ritter is incredibly jealous. And a thing about Gary's character is he can't actually articulate a thought on his own. It's amazing because he's like, and it's so funny because John Ritter's comedic timing is absolutely perfect. Now, I know that this is a movie and they could have rehearsed it and taken 75 takes, but I prefer to think of this as more like a stage and that he just was amazing every time the first time because he's so brilliant and the timing of the way in which he says the words that were on the script are absolutely perfect. And so this matinee showing starts with the curtain calls. And if you've ever been in a play, right, somebody usually comes up and it says, ladies and gentlemen, will you please take your seats? The curtains will rise in 5 minutes. Well, they say 5 minutes, then they say 1 minute, then they say 5 minutes, then they say 2 minutes, then they say 3 minutes. And finally, Michael Caine has had too much Valium and he can't take anymore. He goes backstage and he's like, what is going on? You're going to kill somebody. Like, this is a matinee. There are old people. They're getting up and getting down and getting up. They're going to have a heart attack. And then they're like, what's going on? Nobody's on stage. They think someone's died. It's 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes have passed and we were supposed to be started. What's going on? And they're having big drama back there because nobody is getting along.
Absolutely, they are having big drama because no one is getting along. You have the burglar, Denholm Elliott, Selsden. He keeps taking the bottle of scotch, which is supposed to be something that he does in the actual play, but he keeps just like sneaking off with it to go get drunk, I guess, in the back alley of this playhouse, which is great. Yeah, you have all the lovers' quarrels, and my favorite kind of bit about this then is that because this is backstage, everyone's supposed to be quiet. It's basically like a silent film kind of at this point, right? You're seeing, the very much exaggerated acting, and you're seeing, people like mouth things at each other, but they're not actually being able to talk because they have to be quiet because they're backstage of this play. So it's very much like choreographed, which is really pretty great. Things take a pretty dark turn. John Ritter ends up grabbing some sort of like fireman's axe. he's at his end, which gets passed around from people to people. It's pretty nutty, but I did really like kind of the choreography of this section, and I think that I liked it better because it was a little bit tighter than kind of showing the full stage, right? You're just seeing kind of the smaller bit backstage, and you're seeing people, hearing their cues and have to go out, kind of in the middle of these fights and things, which is really pretty funny and really comedic in the sense of the way that it's timed and kind of the physicality of what's going on between all of these people as they keep having to run out and get Selsden go out to grab the bottle of J&B, go out and grab these flowers and plates of sardines, and they have everything kind of laid out, and they're like throwing the stuff around back and forth to each other as they're trying to kind of pull off this play in the midst of this knockdown, drag out kind of lovers quarrel brawl. It went from like a lovers some sort of like a lovers like three-way like love affair sort of thing to now it's like the whole cast is somehow entangled in this lovers quarrel. So I don't know, it's pretty fun, it's pretty great, and that is kind of this Miami section here in this matinee. I guess it goes off okay enough though, because we're getting to go and see kind of the final stop. I guess I think even Lloyd says something to the effect of everything was going great, and then there was Cleveland. It's really funny as someone from Ohio. That's what I think about Cleveland too. No shade at people from Cleveland. It's a lovely place. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. There you go.
There you go. Well, things are rocking and rolling on this stage, I'll tell you that. Things have gone from bad to worse, right? So newsflash, so Poppy's pregnant. John Ritter and Carol Burnett's characters absolutely hate each other. Now Carol Burnett and Mary Lou Henner's character are mad because Mary Lou Henner is obviously infatuated with Christopher Reeve, and they see it, and it's all out pandemonium. And so the show opens with a ringing phone, and the phone rings for about 30 seconds when Dottie comes out on stage and actually gets kicked out on stage. And she usually does this really funny monologue that is like, I'm not here and I'm not supposed to be here. I'm just here for the color TV and no one's supposed to be here. And, the owners of the house are in Spain, and she kind of sets this whole thing up. But what she ends up doing is saying, everybody's trying to kill me. Somebody help. We've only been on the road 3 months. And it as a theater person, it totally resonates with me, because in every time you have a show that goes more than, two or three shows, right? Now I've never been on one that did 3 months, but like there is a shift. There are things that happen backstage that end up brought out one way or another, kind of like osmosis into the show. And so it's hilarious how now everybody that is supposed to be friendly on stage can't stand each other. And so they find ways to sabotage each other in really dangerous ways. Like they tie shoelaces and they fall downstairs, and finally like John Ritter ends up at the bottom of the stairs for like the second time, and they're like, she's finally killed him. What's going on? And Michael Caine is watching again, but he stays away until the very end of the first act, when no one again can find Selsden, and he comes out. And then, of course, Selsden hears his cue again. And so we end up with two burglars on stage that are going through the same lines, and everyone is just freaking out. Poppy literally throws the script backstage because no one is saying the right things. Everybody has missed cues. It's absolutely, it's really hard to kind of explain, but it's quite funny, in my opinion, because finally they look at Michael Caine's character and they're like, what do we do? what do we do? We're all on stage. We're not supposed to be on stage. We're not supposed to know. I mean, the whole premise behind this play is that they're going in and out of doors and things, but they all miss each other somehow. And so they don't know that, there's anybody other than Mrs. Clackett and whoever they're there with to have like a cheeky afternoon together. And yet they're all together. There's like 8 people on the stage. By the way, there's an Arab sheik that shows up that actually wants to rent the house. And because there's only like 6 people in this company, it's always Tim, who's the stagehand, who kind of comes in and acts like he's a sheik. And it's like this really funny joke that's supposed to happen at the very end of the first act. They all end up there. The sheik ends up being there's 2 sheiks now. Poppy comes in as the sheik, and they're all wearing these sheets. It is definitely zany and crazy and a bit lots of camp, but it's really funny. And the curtain doesn't go down correctly either, and so it's just a hot mess.
Yeah, that's kind of a recurring theme. The curtain never quite goes down. It goes like halfway down and then it stops and then it starts to go back up. It's kind of like your garage door. If you can get something in front of that sensor, that's kind of how this curtain's working. But yeah, the last section here is absolutely insane. As you said, they're kind of sabotaging each other. They're kind of self-sabotaging. I guess if you wanted to get a little bit analytical on the story, you could say that they're trying to do that because they're done playing these parts. They're done being together. But I don't think there's any analyzing what's going on here. It is just absolute pandemonium from start to finish, which is good, which is really fun. And it's fun to see kind of the progression of this thing that starts out as going poorly, just continue to get more and more poorly going. And I know that is not good grammar there on my part, but that's okay. That is all right. So eventually, we make it through the show in Cleveland, and the people in Cleveland seem to like it. Maybe they thought that it was fun, that it was so haphazard, so nonsensical and crazy and zany and all of that stuff, because the crew here for Nothing On is on their way to Broadway. So we are basically back at the front of our story now. Nice little circular storytelling here. We are there. Lloyd is, like I said, trying to avoid seeing this. He doesn't want to be any part of this. He knows that this thing is going to tank. He has watched this thing go from bad to worse. But we're on to our final performance. And lo and behold, the crew comes together, puts on one good show to standing ovations. Good job, cast and crew of Nothing On.
Yeah, but that's how it is. I think in the theater is you end up getting in arguments with people. You've got a bunch of people. I mean, actors by definition, they can be very attention seeking. Most actors, actually, especially stage actors, really love attention. They have to be quick on their feet. They have to be able to improvise. And it's hard when you get that many strong personalities together anywhere, right? I mean, we've seen we've seen this in corporate America. People act just as badly. They just don't have a stage to kind of do it on. They do it in a boardroom instead. So I think one of the things that makes that was interesting about this ending is that we don't see what happens the last 3 months, because the whole point of this was we started in Des Moines. We had 3 months to Cleveland, and then we had another 3 months before they showed up in Broadway, at Broadway. And we don't know what exactly happens in those 3 months until we see the very end of the play in Broadway. And so, the poor Lloyd he walks in at the beginning and he's like, no, I can't watch. It's going to be horrible. And they're like, is there a problem with your seat, sir? And he's like, yeah, it's facing the stage. I can't do it. I can't see it. And so he goes through this whole fear that it's going to be a disaster like it had been. But at the end, everybody seems to pull together. Everybody kind of puts their differences aside and puts the play on. And it's this amazing ride that you can't get off, and it works. And if you've been in a theater production or you've watched an amazing theater production where everybody is rowing in the same direction, it's this it's this wonderful feeling of a dream come true. And Lloyd finally comes back in right at the end of the first act, and everything worked. The stage worked. They said all their lines. They're still alive. No one's dead at the bottom of the stairs. The phone is where it's supposed to be. And of course, the sardines are exactly what they're supposed to be as well. And so you have this coming together. And so, of course, Lloyd goes in the backstage and he wants to congratulate everybody. And we find out that, everybody's kind of switched partners, which also happens, I think, pretty often in the theater world, right? So Cara Burnett, no longer with John Ritter. Now she's with Denholm Elliott, which is probably a better choice. Christopher Reeve and Mary Lou Henner finally are together, which we all called that from the very beginning. And Nicolette Sheridan, she is real pretty and she's got clothes on at the end, which is nice. And she's with John Ritter, which is great because they can both not talk to each other. It's wonderful. And then Poppy and Lloyd end up getting married because Poppy is very pregnant at the end of this. And all's well that ends well.
All is well that ends well. Yeah, absolutely. So that kind of is the story. The story of Noises Off, Noises On, this fictional play that they're putting on there. It is just absolutely insane. It's insane. It's kind of a neat look at the production of a play. And you made mention to it, Michaela. That's why live theater and musicals and operas and things are so beloved, obviously, and still going on, right? There's no reason to have plays in a world of movie theaters and being able to watch Netflix on your phone, except that there's something very magical about a cast of real life people in front of you, coming together to tell you the story and entertain you. It's something that's very will like entrance you and enchant you and make you think about things in a certain way. And certainly it can be very inspirational and very emotional to see real life people telling these stories to you. And as you and I are big fans of musical theater and plays and stuff like that, that's very important to us. So movies like this I think are really interesting, that kind of obviously this is this farce, it's this big nonsensical bit, but it shines some lights on kind of the production side of something like that. It's why we like movies about making movies, right? It's why we like the Fabelmans. It's why we like The Sound of Music. It's and it's why people like Noises Off. Did they like it enough to go to the movie theater and see it? Nope. Did they like it well enough to have this turn into some sort of beloved classic? Yeah, absolutely, because this thing, like I said, it didn't make any money. It got crushed, raked over the coals by the critics. But if you go to Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 84% user rating, which is really pretty high, I will say. And for some people like yourself, Michaela, this is one of their all-time favorites.
It is. When people ask me what my favorite movie is, it's always hard for me to answer. When people ask me what my favorite comedy is, I say Noises Off every time. I have seen this film, I don't know how many times. I could probably quote the entire film to you. I will not do that. I will refrain. However, I still laugh. I know what's going to happen, and I still laugh. And I think that in a movie, you can't ask for much more than that as an actor, to do something that if people even know they're going to see it again and again, they still find it funny. It was hard. I think you're correct in that, Siskel and Ebert gave this film 2 thumbs down. Most people were like, this just didn't work. It didn't work as a movie. And I totally disagree. I thought that the heart of it is still very much there. I think it was a challenge for sure. And I definitely think if you think the movie's interesting, go see the play, because the play is amazing. I was able to see it as an adult, and really finally understand why someone was naked, or half naked throughout the whole thing, and not as a 4-year-old. Parenting choices, I don't understand. But I think this film, it really captures the heart and soul of what it's like to be in a theatrical production that's on the road. And not only personally what can happen, because you end up getting, being very emotional, and getting emotionally involved with your cast in a different way than maybe any other profession ever. But also the pressure to have this line between reality and fantasy, and being able to do that well and create a world that's and a little bit of magic for people, and figure out a way to do that while you're having your own kind of backstage life. I don't know. I'm waxing on, but I'm this show is so endearing to me, and I just love it. And I think the cast is brilliant. I can't imagine, they better never redo this film, because I can't imagine anybody doing it better. This was actually Denholm Elliott's last film before his before his passing. And I think that he should have been very proud of it, because you're right. It's not these weren't iconic roles, but they were to me when I saw it when it came out. I don't know. I think anybody who loves theater would at least be able to appreciate this, if not truly think that it's a delight.
Well, there you go. Absolutely. So I saw this the first time 12 hours ago. I know that's what you're getting ready to ask me there, Michaela. What did I think about the film? So I watched this about 12 hours ago. It is a lot to take in. I'd mentioned I think that stories like this work better on the stage than they do in films. And to that end, I think that this movie works really good as kind of an addendum to, if you've seen the play. If you've seen the play, then you probably can really latch on to this story. I've never seen the play, so I don't have kind of that grounding for the characters. But all of the characters here have this really kind of great charisma about them, which is really entertaining. This came out in '92, which is from our childhood. So, a lot of these actors and actresses are, really important, or at least played some kind of role in our movie and television watching experience growing up, right? Carol Burnett, John Ritter, Christopher Reeve, Mary Lou Henner, all of those people were very important to I don't want to speak for you, but at least myself, kind of growing up with these actors and actresses and the roles that they played. So it was neat from that stance to see them all come together, and how well they could play off of each other, and how great of, performers they really were. Christopher Reeve, I thought, was excellent. I mean, you only really know him from Superman, which is, not the deepest depths of acting. So it was neat to see him in something else, right? Where he's being challenged, and he's being, completely like the polar opposite of Clark Kent, kind of a figure here, which I thought was really pretty neat. Kind of the gags are pretty fun. Kind of the jokes are fun. It's fun every time Michael Caine yells "cut" and they have to go up, and he just starts arguing with all of these actors. I really like, there's one particular bit where Denholm Elliott is coming in. He's robbing the house. He's like pouring a drink and completely missing the glass, and then he goes over to this TV and he's like, he goes over to the TV and he's like, microwave. And he picks it up and carries it off. I thought that was hilarious, because obviously it was not a microwave. So there's just a bunch of like little stuff like that. And then I really, really liked kind of the backstage section there in Miami, where you're seeing it kind of play out as like this silent film, kind of slapstick bit. I thought was really neat and really well choreographed. And it had to have taken just forever to get this thing laid out for these actors and actresses to hit their marks and hit their cues, and to make it, what we're seeing does not make sense. But, it has to make sense to these actors and actresses to be able to pull it off, to make it not make sense, right? There's a lot of planning to have something as crazy going on. And I thought that was really fun. So, that is Noises Off in a nutshell. I would recommend give it a watch, especially, like Michaela was saying, if you're a fan of the theater, go check it out. It's worth $3.50 50 cents to rent from Amazon or Apple or wherever you're going to pick it up. I don't. Michaela probably has like the 4K steelbook of this or something.
I do.
Her favorite comedy of all time.
Absolutely.
So there you go. Any closing thoughts, Michaela? You've wanted to talk about Noises Off for a long time. I wasn't necessarily like putting it off. It just kind of worked the way what the schedule was working, and we finally got to it. So any closing thoughts here on Noises Off? Your favorites of comedies?
Yeah, I would just say, yeah, we put this off for a bunch of reasons, right? I mean, here at Drink the Movies, we want to pick films that people have seen. We want to pick films that people actually know what we're talking about. And this, because it did so poorly, I think I've only met two people. Matt Sewa, I'm looking at you, dude. There's only two people, myself and my friend Matt, who saw this and knew it when kind of just conversationally talking about it. Most people have never heard of this film, and that's one of the reasons why I was very hesitant to do it. And it's because it's so endearing to me. And people are going to see it and may take the Siskel and Ebert take on it and think that it's awful, right? But I hope you all listeners, you give it a shot. If you've not seen it, I wouldn't say it's not that it's not for kids. There's no, there's a lot of language. So I wouldn't say it's a family film by any stretch, but I do think it's really funny and I think it's worth your time. Yeah. And that's it. I mean, I've never met anything. It's some, I don't know, as John Ritter would say in this film. I don't know.
I don't know. Straight from 10-year-old Michaela's lips to God's ear there. Go check this one out. And I don't know. Let us know what you think about it for sure, because it is a wild, crazy romp that I think you're either going to really like or really be concerned about us here at Drink the Movies. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you think about the Sardine 1010 gin and tonic. That was an excellent drink to accompany this film. I had no idea what the sardines had to do with it until about 12 hours ago when I started watching the movie. But yeah, I think that this was a really inspired cocktail and a really delicious one. So give that a try. Let us know what you think about it. Send us pictures. You can do that on all the social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and Twitter, and what is that called now? Threads. We're on Threads now at Drink the Movies. So check us out there. Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. You can go to the website, see the pictures of our cocktails, episode recaps, all of that stuff. It's www.drinkthemovies.com. If you want to check out more podcast stuff, we've got bonus episodes, bonus content, all sorts of stuff like that over on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. It's a really good way to support the podcast, and we appreciate anyone who takes the time to go check that out. And you want to make sure that you get subscribed to the podcast. If you're a fan of Noises Off, good, listen to this. If you're a fan of the big blockbuster, we got that coming your way too. Next week is Mission Impossible, so check that out. You're going to want to make sure you're subscribed to follow along for Tom Cruise adventures. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere that supports Spotify podcasts. And if you're liking what you're hearing, I'm amazed and I love you if you're at the end of this episode. But you should press the subscribe button. We do 2 drops a week. If you're really liking what you're hearing, you can support us on our Patreon. Brian just talked about that. If you leave us a 5-star review, tell your friends. We would really love that, because we are just knocked out by being able to create a community or help create a community that brings cocktails and movies together. And you can help by doing those things. So thank you so much.
That's right, absolutely. So that is Noises Off, and I gotta tell you, it was a whirlwind adventure. I need to take a break. I need like a cold washcloth for my head after watching that and talking about that. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go grab another one of these gin 1010s, because that sounds like a good idea. That's excellent. And then I'm gonna have to rest up to watch Tom Cruise, whatever Tom Cruise is going to do for the next 2 hours and 45 minutes. Killing me. But that is that. So Noises Off, Michaela. We talked about it. We came, we laughed, we cried, we drank gin. So I don't know. Let's wrap it up there. And we'll talk to everyone next time on
Drink the Movies.
The Movies.
I'm starting to know what God felt like when he sat there in the darkness creating the world. And what did he feel like, Lloyd, my dear? Very pleased that he'd taken his Valium.
There you go. Good thing about this episode is it doesn't have to make any sense, because the movie doesn't make any sense.
The movie is amazing.